Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Today, we are discussing a 2015 limited edition of 250 pieces in, wait for it, precious metal hallmarked palladium. There are not a lot of palladium watches out there. The material, which is a precious metal, combines a whiteness akin to platinum with a weight akin to white gold. So this is the Arnold Son TEC1 black with a Flinke lacquer and guilloche dial inside a 45mm precious metal palladium case that is 16.2mm thick and from lug tip to lug tip 52.4mm with a 22mm spacing in between the lugs. Throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference. It does fit, though this is probably the limit. I think I could wear this just fine, and in fact, the further you get away from my camera, the more it looks like this would work out just fine. But if your wrist is smaller than mine, you're going to want to pick a smaller watch. For that, and if you want to stay in the world of Arnold Son and palladium, check out the UTTE Flying Tourbillon. That would be a great example of a smaller Arnold Son palladium tourbillon for a smaller wrist. But if your wrist is my size or larger, game on. The watch is substantial. Arnold Son watches, when they're made in this volume, say 250 pieces, that would not have been built out over a single year, as back in 2015, Arnold Son was only making a few hundred watches a year of all models and model lines combined. So this is a rare sight anywhere, even in Le Chaux de Fonds. The strap is large, rectangular scale, symmetrical scale alligator leather with a little bit of bolstering, a monotone stitch, a folded edge on the bottom calfskin. You can see no crimping, no gouging. This is an Arnold Son factory strap. We've got a buckle right here that is a double folding clasp, and it is made of steel. I want to just be clear that the buckle itself is palladium, but the internal swing arm is made of stainless steel, and that is for security, as palladium is a very soft metal that wouldn't be suitable for these moving mechanical parts. But the buckle itself is palladium. The clasp is steel. The lugs are beautiful. As you can see, this is welded lug case construction at its absolute best. The lugs inserted into slots in the case band, welded on carefully, and then filed brilliantly to create an ultra sharp break between the lug and the case band. And then you can see they went one step further and they satinated the outer face of the lug, which is stepped out from the primary lug body. Really great artisanal watchmaking there, and the kind of thing you can only do when you're making a few watches at a time. This is not the kind of thing you see in a big watch factory. Those tend to be stamped or machined. This is a really great hand-welded lug. Taking a look, we have a combination of these gigantic pump pushers and a media-blasted and polished crown, of course, Arnold & Sons, related by name to John Arnold and Son, but let's be perfectly honest, this is a company today out of Le Chaux de Fonds that was created by another company called the British Masters in the 1990s, and then passed through a couple of different hands before it was purchased by La Joux-Perret, which is a manufacturer that grew out of the old Jacquet company. And because La Joux-Perret wanted to be able to make watches under its own name, it went out and it purchased Arnold & Son to merge it with La Joux-Perret. So La Joux-Perret movements Arnold & Son watches, and Arnold & Son within La Joux-Perret creates its own specially styled movements for the models it creates. So that is the lineage of Arnold & Son and how we got here. There are other versions of the TEC1. This one features a black dial, so you can see the guilloche pattern, but also that there's a lush and lovely black lacquer on top of it, which gives it a glossy black sheen. We have applique faceted dart-style indices, and then hands that are sort of a hybrid of syringe style and broadsword. You can see they're half satinated, so that they give good contrast against a black dial base. Then we have an azurage pattern for the chronograph minutes register, which has its own little half satinated hand. And yes, that is a 60-minute chrono register, which I find very useful. More chronographs should have that. You'll appreciate that the tourbillon is dial side. It is a 1-minute tourbillon, and it is a 4 Hz tourbillon, which is a surprisingly high beat rate for a tourbillon regulator, but ensures that this is a better timekeeper than if it had a slower beat rate. You can also see that it's been beautifully decorated with the cage beveled and mirror finished, and then the bridge on top satinated and beveled with polished screws. We'll take a good look at that tourbillon. You can see to good effect that there's a lot of depth to that part of the dial and a sunray motif underneath it. Taking a look at the movement itself, you can see this is the 8305. Automatic winding. It's got a 55-hour power reserve. This is, again, made inside of Arnold Son and lug-to-lug specifically for these applications. It's got a lateral clutch column wheel chronograph, and the column wheel feel is really good. You can see the column wheel operating with its blued crenellated towers over at screen left. Take a look at that rotor, 22 carats, not 21, not 18, no expense spared, skeletonized, internally beveled, and freehand engraved. We have Côte de Soleil, or a sunburst striping across the bridges, mirrored beveling that is exceptionally broad, and you can see it there. You can also see engine turning, which is nicely overlapped and concentric. There's engine turning, and then there's engine turning, and this is the latter. This is the good stuff. You can see that the springs are delicately satinated and beautifully rendered. We have here on this case back both polished and fire-blued screws, and you will appreciate both of them. So the movement, automatic winding, features a 4 Hz beat rate, 55-hour power reserve, column wheel with lateral clutch, 30 joules, 5-position high horology style adjustment, and then to make sure everything matches, it's actually been palladium plated rather than rhodium plated, which I deeply appreciate. A very cool watch and a very cool movement. If you've got the wrist for it and you want something rare, it doesn't get any better. Reach out to Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase and pricing details. One postscript to that whole Arnold Son ownership story. You may wonder, if Arnold Son is owned by lug-to-lug, who owns lug-to-lug? Citizen Watch of Japan gives them pretty much a blank check to make cool watches and the money to service them and provide parts forever. And that's part of the security blanket you get when you buy a watch like this. It's got independent spirit, but there's big company money behind it. 30 meters water resistant, so don't swim with it, but in every other regard, this is designed for everyday use. Reach out to Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.